Okay, so the last few questions. This is number 26. So solve the equation. We have 2x to the third minus 23x squared plus 71x minus 30 equals 0. And we are given 5 is a 0. So if we're given one of the zeros, then we know that we can use synthetic division. So my polynomial is in descending order, so I take all the numerical coefficients. So 2, negative 23, 71, negative 30. We're going to drop, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, and add. So we were told that 5 was a 0. We knew that we should get a 0 here. So the resulting polynomial would be 2x squared minus 13x plus 6 is equal to 0. And now I can factor that one. So we can use the factoring method that I showed you guys in class. Since it doesn't start with the 1, then we can multiply 2 times 6, which is 12. And so how can I get a 12? 1 times 12, or 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. My factors need to add to make 13, so I know it's going to be the 1 and 12. My 13 is negative, which meant that they have to both be negative. A negative times a negative is a positive, and then a negative plus a negative is a negative. Okay? So, if I use my box, I know that I would have 2x squared, and then choose one, it doesn't matter. I'll put minus 1x, minus 12x, and then plus 6. And then remember, it's column, column, row, row. So my first column has a 2x in common. My second one doesn't have anything in common besides a 1. And remember, it starts with a negative, so it would be negative 1. My first row only has an x in common, and my second row has a 6 in common, but remember it starts with a negative, so I need a negative 6. So this would be 2x minus 1 times x minus 6 equals 0. And then solving, this x will give you 6, and then you would add 1, and then you would divide by 2, so this x would give you 1/2. So the solution, you could have 5, you could have 1/2, or you could have 6. Okay? Number 26. Number 27, for that one, find or use the rational zero theorem. Minus 6x squared plus 3x plus 21. Okay, so for this one, remember, all you're doing is taking the constant and all his factors. So 1 and 3 and 7 and 21, and you're dividing by the coefficient of the the first term. Oops, sorry. So that's a 1, so plus or minus 1. So dividing by 1 doesn't change any of these. So my possible zeros for this one would be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 7, and plus or minus 21. Okay, number 28 says solve the polynomial, obtain the first root, use synthetic division. So my polynomial is x cubed, plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6 is equal to 0. And so I'm going to use the rational zero theorem to get me some possible zeros. So the factors 6 plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 6, and that would all be over plus or minus 1. So remember, that's not going to change anything. And so I will then use one of my possibilities and use synthetic division, and I'm going to try think in class I've already done this one, but I'll do -1. So 1 and then 2, -5, -6. So drop, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. And so my first 0 is -1. Okay. And then I'll get my next 0 from my resulting polynomial, x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0. Remember, if my numerical coefficient is a 1, then don't work hard. You're just taking this guy right here and thinking about what multiplies together to get him. You've got a negative, so one has to be a plus and one has to be a minus. So these are your only options right here. And you need the option that will make a +1. And so it is this pair. So that would be x minus 2 and x plus 3. So this will give me x is equal to 2. And this gives me x is equal to -3. So those are your possible solutions. I'm sorry, those are your solutions. Okay. Next, we are on number 29. So 29 is Descartes' rule of sign. So you're looking at sign changes. So here is your original function. Oh, that's not right. X to the 9th, -7. -7 x to the 9th plus x to the 5th minus x squared plus 2. So let's check our sign changes. So from here to here we have a sign change. From here to here we have a sign change. From here to here we have a sign change. So that means that we have 3 positive real zeros, and then remember you subtract 1. You subtract 2, and so that could say you could also have 1 positive. So then to check, we can substitute in minus x. And so substituting in minus x, our first term would be minus x. If I raise that to the 9th power, it's going to be negative. So this would be a positive. Minus x, that's going to be a negative because it's to the 5th. Minus x squared, that's going to make it a positive right here, but there's still a negative right there, so that'll be a negative, and then that one doesn't change. So check your sign changes. You got 1 here, that's the same. You got 1 here, so this says either 2 or 0 negative real zeros. Okay. So this is for your positives. So look at your sign changes of the original. There was 3 sign changes and you subtract 2. Okay. And then substitute in your minus x and then check your sign changes. You had 2 sign changes. So 2 minus 2 is 0, and so that's why we said we either have 2 or 0 negative real solutions. And we have 3 or 1 positive real solution. So those are your answers. Okay, number 30. 30 is domain. So for domain, remember what you're remembering is that the denominator cannot be equal to 0. So you just find what number makes it 0. So subtract 3, and so x cannot be equal to -3. So your domain is everything except for that. So it would be the set of x's such that x is not equal to -3. And that's your answer. Okay. Number 31, vertical asymptotes. I think we did this one in class already too. So vertical asymptotes, remember you're factoring that denominator. So factoring your denominator, remember it is a difference of squares. And so it is x plus 4 times x minus 4. Nothing divides out from numerator to denominator, so there's no wholes. So these are your two vertical asymptotes. X equals -4 and x equals +4. So remember, those are vertical, they're going up and down. Number 32. Horizontal. So f at x is equal to 12x over 3x squared plus 1. Okay, so number 32. So you have to go back and remember the rules about your horizontal asymptotes. Remember, these are the ones where you look at the degree. So let's get our degrees first. So our numerator, the degree is 1, and our denominator, the degree is 2.